Ethiopian, those who suffer in journalists and activists in different parts of Ethiopians, prison, innocent people who lost their life, killed, tortured, displaced with force from their lands, leaders and followers of both Christian and Muslims who are in prison and lost their life, the new and the youngest generation those who are hopeless by poverty and failed the country to fill work in the urban, killed, raped, tortured, killed alive, take off the kidney and sold, lost their life in the sea and oceans. Ethiopian People's Revolution Democratic Front, EPRDF government, a virtual dictatorship, albeit on the rest in democratic Western urban. 23 years of suppression at the hand of the EPRDF, simmering discontent and anger appears robbed of hope. The people have had enough of the wide-range human rights abuse, the denial of constitutional rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of expression, the right of assembly, gender equality, freedom of religion, the arbitrary imprisonment and torture, regiment, violence, the displacement of people from ancestral land and present distribute of aid and the rising cost of living. As I try to explain to understand some of the characteristic and future of the regiment today is Ethiopian forget the other human rights, freedom of expression in impossible. Press and media almost belong to the regiment. As of the CPG committed to protect journalists, reporters on 2012, Ethiopia is top country from which journalists in the exile recent years. Somali 78, Iran 68, Ethiopians 49. 72 papers are closed under Meles Zenawi. Internet Ethiopia ranked bottom on the 2013 Web Index. The World Wide Web Consortium ranked Ethiopia 18th of the 18 country in the cover. The ranking reaffirms the widespread cyber consumption and surveillances in Ethiopia corroborate that with regard to the internet freedom, Ethiopia is one of the most repressive countries in the world, as recent reported. Cost of living rising from time to time, and now food expand and household income is more than 60%. That any increase in food prices has negative effect on the well-being of large majorities. Independent situation like the judiciary, the media, the election board, and the many civil organizations that creates a healthy society cannot exist in the country. Laws are passed and used the criminalized dissent, accused heroes of truth, freedom, and justice to be charged and state sentenced to a year in prison as terrorists under vague anti-terrorism law. The Charity and Society Proclamation, CSO, has totally paralyzed civil society by outlawing organizations that obtain more than 10% of their budget from foreign source from advocacy for such things as human rights, child rights, women's rights, conflict resolution between ethnics and religion, and other essential responsibilities of civil society. It is estimated that over 2,600 organizations closed their doors in response to this draconian laws. On the other hand, the TPLF-EPRDF regime has set up their own pseudo institution in order to deceive outside, leading an outsider. Ladies and gentlemen, after 23 years, Ethiopian under EPRDF, political repression continued from bad to worse, and now in Addis Ababa, the capital city Ethiopia and the setting place of United Nations, Africa Union, and many international organizations. After 23 years, we have elected without power, pipes but not water, telephone without network, tea without sugar, economy cannot feed 1 meal a day. Our office led only by ethnic and membership to EPRDF instead of education one. Transport cost is very expensive. Internet without connection. Media controlled by the regime. We have a religion but not free to worship. We have country but not elected leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, we can say a lot about Ethiopians' political repression. It is undiscovered to tell, but now I want to say something about the 2040 political repression, because this year a lot of crime against humans after 23 staying of power continue and reach out its boiling point. The Muslim question starts from December 2011 and still protesting peacefully, and they are not yet solved and accepted by EPRDF. The Awalia Mosque protested that started almost 2 years ago by our Muslim brothers and sisters in order nothing else but their right to exercise their God give, if not their democratic rights, to elect their leaders of the Council of Islamic Affairs. Is their democratic rights rather be instrumental. It makes the Muslim leaders and followers jailed, tortured, killed all over in different parts of country, still continue their voice on every Friday for their rights. An opposition group, Blue Party, formed by Engineer Ilkal Getenet, with a young Ethiopian, staged a protest on September 2030. The public protest Samai organized in June was the first major demonstration on the street of Addis Ababa since 2005, when hundreds of protests were killed in violence. Some 100 members of Ethiopian opposition, Samai Blue Party, were arrested and some badly beaten, and on 2014. Samai Party, Blue Party, Ethiopian most active opposition party, held rare protest against the ruling regime TPLF EPRDF on April 27, 2014. In the capital Addis Ababa, hundreds were beaten and arrested, and still 26 members are in prison. Following the arrest, calling of the great liberators and a true democracy in Ethiopia, but police shot. The 200-person demonstration down soon after it started. HRW says 20 members of the political opposition, Samai or Blue Party, have also been arrested since Friday. Another opposition group, UDJ, also prepared on May 4, 2040. Crying days through Ethiopian was finished by intimation and arrest of the General Society of UDJ, Mr. Asrat Tase, and it is known international. The leader of this party, Andualam Arragi, is sentenced a long life prison, and now he is in jail. Following this, Don 9 blogger in Ethiopia, They have not been charged. In fact, the government could not come up with a responsible cause for detaining the 6 bloggers and 3 journalists. It has now come to our attention that 2 have been tortured. All they did will be long about condition in their own countries. Corruption has gone out of control. In decade beginning in 2001, 60.5 billion have been illegally transferred to foreign bank, according to Washington DC. Based global financial integrity, there are chronic water, power, and food storage. The state security literally eavesdrops on telephone conversation and control internet connectivity, make Ethiopia the last served in Africa and were still in jail. Here we can see in Ethiopia blogger insane. And now current Ethiopian crime against university students humanity on May 2, 2014, BBC reported that the security forces of the regiment in Ethiopia and massacred at least 47 university and high school students in the town of Ambo, 18 miles west of the capital Addis Ababa. The regiment dismissed the massacre and tried to sweep it under the rug, claimed that a few anti-peace forces incited and coordinated the violences. There has been little international coverage or outrage over the massacre. Human Rights Watch HRW issues a statement condemning the shooting at and beating of the peaceful protesting in Ambo, Nakkam, Jimma, and other towns. According to HRW, the student protested erupted over the release of the proposed Addis Ababa Integrated Development Master Plan, which would expand Addis Ababa municipal boundary to include more than 50 communities in Oromia and displace Oromia farmers and residents. HRW demanded an immediate end to excessive use of forces by the regiment security force against peaceful student demonstrations. Here the BBC did not match what the local people figured out. The local people says more than 70 people are killed, more than 200 wounded, and 1,000 are put in jail, and others are not where they are. This being crime against humanity in 20th century, after 23 years, staying power is not getting a media coverage by the international community. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we explain to you this country where we are coming from. We are part of a member of political Gimbot Sabat movement, ONLF, and other groups. All of them have a question which has to be solved, but the government continue to kill with 23 years of brutal and dictatorial way. Here we want to tell you that Norway and Ethiopia signed an agreement to return Ethiopia asylum seeker living in Norway on 26th of January 2011. State Secretary Torger Larsen and State Minister of HE Ambassador Bahan Gabra Christos signed a memorandum of understanding between the two countries. The agreement will enable Ethiopian citizens in Ethiopia return to Ethiopia in a secure and defined manner. The agreement entered into force upon the signing. Here most of us are a member of political group and organization which are stamped and labeled by the government as a terrorist, like a Gimbot Sabat OLF, ONLF, and other political groups like EPRDF and other movements. This is Norway. We perform a lot of political activity in exile. We perform demonstration. We meet and discuss Ethiopian political activity alertly. We write using social media like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, mails, video, and photographs. The government agents and spies living in Norway also forwards photographs, names, video, newspaper from Norway about our activities. Even if we get very few media coverage by Norwegian media, TV, and newspaper, can be at the hand of the regiment by the spies from Norway. It is very sad that we Ethiopians are forgotten by international society, the EU, Western, US, and other countries' media. We have sourced from a week in the Horn of Africa, Dr. Tedros meeting the Foreign Minister of Norway, May 9, 2014. Above Foreign Minister Dr. Tedros Adhanom and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway, Borg Brand, have had discussed on a regional security issue focused on the conflict in South Sudan before a week. More ago, since April 25 up to 30, students have demonstrated throughout Oromia regional states to protest the government. Plan to substitute and expand the municipal boundary of Addis Ababa, which the students feel would treat committees currently under regional jurisdiction. Security forces have responded, have shooting at hand, beating peaceful protests in Ambo, Nakam, Jimma, and other towns, with unconfirmed reported from witness of dozens of casualties. The HRW, Amnesty International, CPG, and other advocacy groups are tried to make a report about Ethiopia through 23 years of brutal and killing government of Ethiopia. The UN donor and supporters of Ethiopians, UN and US cannot or show any interest to make sanction or to put pressure or a resolution. Instead, they are continuing to follow a hug amount of money as said in the name of millennia. It is known that Ethiopia lost $16 billion by corruption, and Ethiopia ranks 11th of 177 countries of the world. So we have a question for Norwegian and immigration. By that, moral that return will happen. We task the responsibility for our life. Most of us, we live in Jovik area and Lena Motak. We live in Norway for more than 5 years. Hopeless and rejected from social system in Norway. We have beautiful country. We are not colonized. We are proud about our grandmother and grandfather. They treated to defend our Ethiopia. To be a refuge in natural or man-made. Jesus was a refuge from Herod to kill of a child. The followers of Prophet Muhammad to Ethiopia. The end of World War II brought in its wake the largest population movement in European history. It is also a legal and moral value humankind to protect a refugee. It is also grounded in Article 40 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, which recognized the right of persons to seek asylum from persecution in other countries. The United Nations Convention relating to the status of a refugee adopted in 1951 is the centerpiece of international refugee protection today. At the end, we asked to the Norwegian immigration to understand and see our country's situation with our activities, our cases be revised and need for protection, is we expect not return and hand over to the killer EPRDF. Thank you for listening and practicing.
The presentation was nicely presented by Daniel. That is as you listen it. And the next program will be an audiovisual program, which is
the main focus of my presentation is why Ethiopians came to Norway and asked an asylum, and the hidden facts of the current Ethiopian government. In order to say this presentation is the main purpose of the presentation is to show the Norwegian society, around post-Toten commune, about the dictatorial characteristics of Ethiopian government. And in this presentation, I will try to show some of those millions reasons why citizens of Ethiopia flee from the world. We Ethiopians in Norway chose Norway for our political asylum destination because Norwegian nation and human rights are inseparable, and Norway is an ideal state for human rights and democracy in such interest-driven world. Let me say something about Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country located at the Horn of Africa, most of you may know that, and surrounded by Kenya, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. And Ethiopia is a country with a total population of over 93 million. It's around more than 93 million actually. Ethiopia is one of those countries in the world considered as below poverty line. For the last 20, 30 years, Ethiopia has been considered as the poorest country in the world. And the government history of Ethiopia, the era of the kings ended in 1974 by public revolution and overthrow of the last king Haile Selassie I. I believe most Norwegians know the last king Haile Selassie I. And in the year 1974, the Soviet-backed Marxist-Leninist military junta, the Derg, led by Mengistu Haile Mariam, came to power. Actually, this Derg was a communist government. That time there was a Cold War in the world, and the world was divided into the communist world and the capitalist world. And this military system, the Derg, led by Mengistu Haile Mariam, was on the side of Soviet Union. And that time, the new Provisional Military Administration Council established as a one-party communist state, which was called the People's Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. And during that time, up to 500,000 people were killed as a result of Red Terror, from forced deportations or from the use of hunger as a weapon under the Mengistu rule. And after 17 years, in May 1991, the current government, which is called EPRDF, forces led by late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, actually this Prime Minister was dead 2 years ago, advanced on Addis Ababa, and it's like for the Amhara people, for the Gurage people, for the Afar people, and for many nations and nationalists in Ethiopia. And the economic structure, actually, the government is always saying that they have built free economy structure, but all those huge business empires belong to TPLF and their followers. This free economy started 23 years ago, actually. They say it's free economy, but it's not free. Because during the Derg regime, it was a command economy. And most of the businesses right now, just doing business in Ethiopia right now, they start doing business in Ethiopia during the TPLF time. So most of the owners of those businesses belong to this particular party. For instance, I have raised the Effort. Effort is, it is a billion-dollar company which is established to support the Tigrayan people. And as you all know, the level of corruption, my friend has said this about this, the level of corruption has become beyond control, and the living condition in the country is increasing time to time, and it's becoming very expensive to live. And the number of people involved in prostitution and other types of illegal jobs is increasing every day. 53 states in Africa, only around, it's not more than 10 people engaged in prostitution is allowed in Ethiopia. You know, in most African countries, prostitution is not allowed. But in Ethiopia, there are thousands of people in child prostitution and many things. They are involved in some kind of illegal jobs. The military system, the original rebel soldiers of TPLF who fought against the regime have dominated the army. You know, most in your country like Norway or in other Western countries. The main purpose of the election in Ethiopia is only about undergoing false election propaganda to get money from Western countries like Norway. I can give you one simple example. The late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi have been ruling Ethiopia for over 21 years. You know, if we consider the basic principles of democracy, a leader cannot be elected more than 2 times or something like that. But that guy have been ruling the country for more than 21 years. And election 2005 was the main history. It is one of the typical history in Ethiopian election situation. You know, this time Ethiopian people stood together to get rid of the dictatorial regime EPRDF. Opposition parties formed unity and communicated with the people by any means possible. At this time, every Ethiopian was dedicated to get rid of EPRDF, and the opposition parties also were strong. And almost all Ethiopians were active participants during this election. All Ethiopians we are seeing right here, we have been participating because at that time, most of us were in Ethiopia and we have been participating in the election process. You see, as you can see in the picture, this is all Ethiopians voted for the opposition parties and millions of people stormed the streets of Addis Ababa. This time, it was around May 2005. The government forced the election board and took all over the votes. These people, they are opposing the government. Most, if you know Ethiopia, you know this place. It is it's called the Meskel Square. It is at the center of Addis Ababa, and this, like millions of people, went out on the street to demand their votes, to demand their rights. But the government, you know, used its forces and to disintegrate, to kill people, and hundreds of people killed. These are the pictures. Some of the pictures I found on the internet. Actually, there are many people. These are the people dead during the 2005 election. And tens of thousands of arrested. You know, like around, I think, more than 50,000 people arrested during that time, and they took them to somewhere else, and they have been detained for years. In election 2009, surprisingly, after 5 years, EPRDF announced that the party won 99.6% of the parliamentary seats. In Ethiopian parliament, there are only 547 seats. Maybe you have not heard about any election in the world that the government won 99.6. Maybe recently I've heard the Northern Korea, they won 100%. But this is a clear indication that there is no democracy. Because even you know, anybody, any saint came to this world, 99.6 people may not vote with him. And this is the guy. This is the picture of the guy. There is one guy, one opposition party representative in the parliament. This is the guy currently, you know, being a voice for the opposition party and the opposition people. And during the last 4 years, this time, 546 seats was given to EPRDF representatives, and they used that time to make new laws because there is no opposition in the parliament. Whenever there is a new law, all of them support that law. So that time the controversial anti-terrorism law came to play, and the government used the anti-terrorism law to imprison journalists, political activists, opposition party leaders, and members and bloggers. Because you have seen many Ethiopians flee from the country for the last 5 years because the Ethiopian government, most of the time when the human rights organization or any other United Nations representative asked them about the basic human rights violation, they always say, we are using the law. But the law is also a problem in Ethiopia. Anybody who raised a question against the government or anybody who raised a question of human rights is being considered as a terrorist and thrown in jail. They always raise that anti-terrorism law. There are journalists, political activists in jail right now. These people, for example, this is some of the imprisoned political activists, journalists, party members, and supporters. Those guys, the Iskender Nagga and the Real Talam, they have been, in jail for many years. This Bakala Garba and Olbana Lilisa, they are representative of Oromo political prisoners. Maybe you know these guys, Martin Shivi and Johan Persson. They are Swedish journalists. They have been detained in Ethiopia for sometimes, and finally they pardoned. And they didn't do anything. They made some kind of movie and they detained them in prison. And this guy was Andanet Party or UDJ party leader, and he's also detained. You know, these people, they didn't do anything. They demanded political right and basic human rights, and that is considered as a terrorism act in Ethiopia. You know, I can bring many pictures, but in order not to bore you. The other thing is land grab and removal of local inhabitants. In Ethiopia, they are saying that they are leasing the land, or they are attracting investors in the country. And the government is leasing the arable land to foreign investors with a very cheap price by removing the local inhabitants with excessive forces. And most of this arable land was used by the local inhabitants, and now they are given to different investors. Let me show you one video regarding
Ethiopian music. We have Ethiopia has got a multicultural ethnic diversity about beautiful cultures and the musics and
Salabayilin, salabayilin, salayeni welala. Salabayilin, salabayilin, salayeni welala. Salabayilin, salabayilin, salayeni welala. Salabayilin, salabayilin, salayeni welala. Shamino demalbas. Salam kalalule machi yeftan fikr salam ande zir salam ande mayselechen salam demaletsh yellam yetmechኝ salam ሁሉ አማረኝ ሳልል ምኞቴን ዘንግቼው ማድመቅሽ ነበር ሳቀና መባቸው Das መስክር እንጂ መልክሽ ከዳኛ ፊት ምን አስልገኝ ቢጣራስ ሙፊት ይኸው ጀመረልሽ ከኩዮችሽ በላይ ሰላም በማለትሽ በቃሽ ለአደባባይ አደባባዩማ ሁሉም ታይቶበታል እንዳንቺ ካገሩ ማን ተመርጦበታል በይ ሰላም 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 በይ ሰላም 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 በይ ሰላም 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 በይ ሰላም 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 Phone would Sirik bigot Salam Sinessa Galgile Wadko Kalas Karut Salam Bamatwek Mechone Melam Izayego Salam Salam Anatanji Salam Yamya Wardo Salam Salam Tezad Milbirazim Aidersim Katar Andanchi Megbabat Manyasib Albetir ነገር እንደነፋስ ሽውታ ነው ብለሽ ቀስቀስ አደረግሽው የስንቱን ጸብያለሽ አቤት ቁንጅናሽን ስንላበሳሽው ጠራሽ ሰላምለሽ ስንቱን አስደመምሽው ይኸው ጀመረልሽ ከኩዮችሽ በላይ ሰላም በማለትሽ በቃሽ ለአደባባይ አደባባዩማ ሁሉም ታይቶበታል እንዳንቺ ካገሩ ማን ተመርጦበታል በይ በይ ሰላም 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 በይ በይ ሰላም 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 በይ በይ ሰላም 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 በይ በይ ሰላም ሰላም በይ በይ ሰላም 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 በይ በይ ሰላም 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 በይ በይ ሰላም ሰላም
societies and all. We like to thank you very much. Hope we will prepare soon this kind of meeting with you. Keep supporting in future. We believe that the Norwegian societies now you have better understanding at the political situation of Ethiopia. So we give you responsibility to be a voice towards the Norwegian societies, immigrations, and your government. Finally, I would like to say thanks by the organization Democratic Change in Ethiopia, support organization Norway, members, supporters, and Ethiopians. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.